Will I get sued for saying that on camera? I wonder.
Too bad.
Hey, it's Zadie, and you are watching my channel, Flytte Kartina, and today we are talking about a lot of things. Here is my guest, Diego. Yeah, hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Everything's chilling for the most part.
Today we decided to talk about just different things than normal, but we're still talking about movies. Today we're going to talk about Star Wars, I think. Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, we're talking about Star Wars, but under the umbrella of Mandalorian because we both watched it. I watched the finale with this guy, and it was really intense.
Very much so.
But let's talk about Mandalorian in general and just see how that goes.
Well, I think first and foremost, a good idea would be to say overarching feels. I think that for anyone who cares about Star Wars, the majority of people that I talk to and know, they all say that they like it. And I think that a lot of people think that's just because it's a hype thing, which is very true. Like, even people who aren't Star Wars fans are watching this, and they find it very entertaining, and, like, it's a great storyline. And Baby Yoda is now meme of the decade. So,
yeah. It was a great way to end the decade.
Definitely. So it was good, definitely good. But I think there's more to it than just the hype that it got.
Yeah, I think the storytelling was really interesting and different and just had a different dynamic than normal. It reminded me a lot more like a Western, which is more reminiscent of the original trilogy because the original trilogy had it good.
Yeah,
and everything
basically.
after that is just kind of, I don't know what to say.
Well, because here's the thing, is that I think a lot of people like to neglect the fact that Star Wars is a recreation of old fairy tales, that the original story of Star Wars is a farm boy that doesn't know anything about fighting, but then he starts a revolution. Well, it doesn't start it, but he fights and wins a revolution. That's what Star Wars is. And so, like, when you go back to basics, like what they did in Mandalorian, where they took a very basic, Western idea, where it's just this, rigorous bounty hunter who goes off and it's his job to kill people. But then you change him in a way where he becomes a much more compassionate person, right?
Yeah.
And actually there is a good side behind this, murderous mystery man, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think part of that facade that he put on was the fact that he didn't take off his helmet at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think Baby Yoda, we don't even know everything in terms of that species, and
Right.
it's so cool to just expand that sort of world building. And I think that's kind of what Rogue One did a little bit. I know Rogue One didn't really do anything for the Star Wars universe, but still, it was cool to see and expand the world and just, broaden our horizons, so to speak, in terms of the original trilogy.
Definitely.
And it was really, I really liked Rogue One. Did you not like it?
Well, from an actual storytelling standpoint, I felt like the writing in it was very good. I feel like the characters, even though we only saw them for a short period of time, they were relatable. We were able to connect to them in a decent way, I feel. And so I think as a Star Wars film, it felt like a Star Wars film. Mm-hmm. And it had the same, notes, the same backstory, the same ruggedness, even though it's in this futuristic world that, we all love about Star Wars. And that's why I felt like it was such a good movie. It provided nothing to the storyline, and it was a clear money grab from Disney. Uh-huh. But, all of those things are true. But that doesn't negate the fact that it was good storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. What do you, I think one point you brought up was that it's a futuristic world. But the tagline in the beginning of the movie says it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Mm-hmm. So this is actually talking about the past in a different galaxy from us.
Right.
So what does that mean?
Well, first of all, I think it's one of George Lucas's weird way of saying that this is somewhat real, and that this isn't like an alternate universe sort of feeling where like we get like with like other fandoms where it really is alternate universes. Like you think of Marvel and DC, that these are literally just alternate universes of our world, where
The whole thing about like Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff like that.
Right. And but when it comes to Star Wars, we don't get that multiverse feeling.
Yeah.
It was before multiverse was a real thing in cinema, and so this was just like a storyteller's way of saying, hey, this old story that we know of, and I'm going to tell you this old story that we know of. It kind of gives it a more like folksy story feel than anything else.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those stories that you tell around like a fairy tale, but for middle school kids. Not that this is a middle school kid thing to do. That's gonna be blown up in the comment section. That's gonna be fun. And let's backtrack back to Mandalorian and talk about the final scene. The final scene in the entire series features, I don't know what the heck his name is because I wasn't paying attention to it because I was just like
Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
the dark saber.
The dark saber.
Yeah, people who don't know Star Wars don't know what that is. By default, people who watch Mandalorian because they saw Baby Yoda, they don't know what the dark saber is and its meaning behind it. And so a lot of people were like, what? Like, it's a cool scene, don't get me wrong. Like, the actual beauty of how it was captured and the way Gideon looks just standing on top of this destroyed TIE fighter with his black sword in the air with his cape flowing in the wind, it looks awesome, and it paints him as, like, this villainous guy that we're going to see later, which is awesome. But the actual significance of that scene, you don't get unless you know the backstory.
Yeah.
And the only way for you to have ever known that is if you went back and watched the CGI Clone Wars series, or you went back and watched the Rebel series that came out on Disney XD, it was, yeah.
It's one of those things that, like the dark saber, it's so cool to look at visually, and we all know it's a lightsaber, like at least some form of it. And so, like, that kind of correlation makes sense to people who don't know what it is. And then at the same time, people who do know what it is freaking out.
Yeah, they're freaking out.
And I think that's one of the beauties of what Mandalorian has done. It's like made the experts happy, and then also the people who don't know anything really satisfied with what they got.
And that's what the original trilogy of Star Wars did in general. It made super fans overly joyed, right, of what was happening. Like when the New Hope came out the first time, it was a total hit to people, right, in the 70s. Everybody was going crazy of it because of this, new boom of sci-fi that was happening at the time. And so everyone was loving it. And even like the sci-fi nerds who, were just loving this new story and were like so anxious to know what the next thing was about. When Empire came out, that was their biggest blockbuster at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so when that came out, people loved it.
Yeah.
And there weren't people that were like, oh man, yeah, I hate Empire Strikes Back. You never hear that.
No.
No one ever says that. Because that is still to this day the best Star Wars movie, and you can quote me on that.
That's
because
it's like a sin. You just can't.
Right. That is cinema history in the making in the 70s, and you can't tell me it was bad. Because that was a great movie.
That was a cinematic masterpiece.
Exactly.
All.
Thank you. It's not just me. The film major says so. That means it's true.
But also, what was up with that second episode? The freaking side quest.
Right.
What? Why? I have a theory, but I want to hear yours.
Okay. The Suga side quest with the Mudhorn.
That one.
To me, it felt like it was another Rogue One to me, because I don't hate Rogue One as a movie or as part of the Star Wars, personally. But it wasn't a necessary addition.
No.
But at the same time, it still gave us important elements of the story. Yes, it's a side quest. Yes, it didn't matter to the main mission at all. They were stranded there, and the ship got torn apart, and they needed to get it back somehow, right? It definitely felt like you were playing Zelda, and it was just like a side quest where this guy took off with all your goods that you just got, and then you have to go on this big maze adventure to go try to find him. But at the same time, you got a lot out of that episode. Like, yes, the Jawas mean nothing. Yes, they mean nothing. But are they funny? Absolutely. And do you get to figure out the great lengths that the Mandalorian is going to go through to get what he needs? To build the world, Yeah, to build the world. And then also at the same time, if we didn't have that episode, we wouldn't have the first time that Baby Yoda, uses the Force. That was the first time we saw it happen.
That's true.
And that's when Baby Yoda saved him from the Mudhorn, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season, that's the Mandalorian signet, is the Mudhorn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
for
so
sure.
it's an important episode. Could it have been done better? Maybe. But I don't hate it.
So here's my theory on that, and it's a little bit more. It's less creative and more corporate. Disney Plus is like, okay, we're gonna launch our program, and also, the first episode of Mandalorian is already gonna be on there.
Mm-hmm.
And the creators of that TV series are like, you did not tell us this. What do you mean? No, we don't have enough episodes for that. And so, you know how pilot episodes of TV series are like maybe an hour and a half, and then the actual episodes are only 40 minutes or whatever? I think they split the pilot episode into 2. It was a corporate thing. It wasn't. It wasn't exactly creative.
That's definitely understandable from a corporate standpoint. And I guess it does make sense because the second episode is the only one that's like that. It is kind of lackluster story-wise.
Yeah.
And it's the only one that you have this weird side quest, right? But even that considered, I feel like how the actual series is filmed is that it focuses so much on the more nitty-gritty stuff. And that's the point of it, right? That's why it's a TV show, not a movie.
Yeah.
That it focuses so much on like the actions, the dialogue, the little shootouts that happen. It focuses so much on that, and so I think even if that was one episode, you wouldn't get all of that in one episode.
Yeah.
Right. If you combine the first and the second episode, it would be so much jumping around that it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that you may be right.
No, for sure.
You may still be right, but at the same time, I think if they tried to put all that into one episode, it wouldn't have been a good first episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the first episode is what got everybody hooked.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we literally walk in and we see this awesome dude in armor just wrecking people.
Yeah.
and imagine if because they had these 2 episodes they needed to put into one, how much of that we would have lost.
Yeah.
And
No, it makes sense.
I don't think it would have been as cool. Okay.
I have an idea. Jawas.
What about them?
What do you think they are? Then I'll tell you what I think.
I can tell you this: the amount of encyclopedias that might be out there, you could probably find out a lot about Jawas.
Yeah.
Personally, my knowledge on them is limited. I can tell you, for one thing, that they are beings. They are, in fact, sentient. They are not like ghosts in robes. I can tell you this that much. There's something under the hood there, I promise. Throughout Star Wars, we started seeing them more and more frequently.
Yeah.
Like, they're like not just like based on this one planet anymore. They're like apparently everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Because as you went through all the movies, you started seeing them just in the background sometimes, or like in their interactions, and so it's clear that they're not just on Tatooine when we first met them, right?
Yeah, right.
That these guys are like everywhere. From what I get from these little guys is that they're some weird alien tribal species of sorts that kind of like colonize planets. But of course, they're so small and insignificant that like they were kind of like pushed out to the outskirts of the planets, and so now they're just like scrappers is what they do.
What they've transformed into?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my theory.
Oh boy.
Ready?
I don't know.
They're spawn creatures.
Spawn creatures?
Yeah. Have you ever seen a baby Jawa?
Well, they all look like children.
There's so many of them all the time, everywhere. I don't know if they like procreate like rats, like they just have like 20 children at a time. I don't know if it's like that, but I think we've never seen a baby Jawa. They're probably spawn creatures, like in Minecraft where you're just gonna crack an egg and all comes
They just
50.
kind of exist.
They just kind of go.
That doesn't make sense though.
No, it does, because like how would you because they've been appearing on planets.
How they get there? Is that what you're trying to
get at? How do they get there and then just, multiply so fast?
Time is still a thing in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I mean, if these guys are capable of stealing ships, I'm sure they're capable of flying ships.
I'm pretty sure they're not. Have you seen a Jawa fly a ship? I played the Lego Star Wars. I know what it is.
You just shut up about Lego Star Wars. All right. I am a connoisseur of that game.
That game was my life on the PS2, I think it was.
When it first came out, yeah.
Yeah, when it first came out. It was my PS2. I freaking loved Qui-Gon Jinn and playing that character. It was so much fun.
That was your favorite character
That was my
out of
favorite
everybody
character.
in that? Oh my gosh. I am not ashamed of this, but my two favorite characters were Darth Maul and Jar Jar Binks. The only reason why I love Jar Jar Binks so much is because he can jump insanely high and you can get all the collectibles.
Yeah, exactly. You could get all the gold bricks and whatever. What was the thing that was like, you know when you reach the gold bar of coins in a level?
True
Like,
Jedi.
True Jedi, that's what it is.
That's when you achieved Nirvana, is when you got True Jedi.
That's when your little brain, as a 7-year-old child,
That's when you know you've made it.
when
in
the
Lego Star
gold
Wars.
bar just keeps going.
Oh yeah,
Keeps going.
You're like, "Psh, I got 100% like 5 minutes ago. I'm not even done with the level yet.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not on free play.
It ain't on
When
free
you
play.
don't do it on free play, it's even more. It's even more impressive.
You know what's gonna be hilarious? When somebody watches, they're like, "What the heck is Lego Star Wars?" Don't worry, just play it. It's worth it.
That was like 5 different topics at the same time. Thanks for talking with me. Let's do this again. Actually, we're going to do it again, so it's going to be great. We're not even going to do an outfit change. It's going to be fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great random day. We will see you on the other side of the screen. Bye.
Bye.